Joining us today. We've got some of my wonderful brokers here today, and we're going through the fundamentals to self-managed super funds, loan structuring, and this is a very specialized training primarily for brokers. But if anyone who is not a broker and is interested in this topic, I'm sure you'll get some value out of this training presentation also. But please remember that it is directed to brokers, finance brokers. So that's what we're doing today. And we'll go through the benefits of a self-managed super fund property investment for the right clients, how to uncover your ideal self-managed super fund clients, and the team that you need around you as a broker to make this good niche work for you as a broker, because there's a number of team players that make this form of lending and investing for our clients possible. And then I'll go into how we can look at structuring a self-managed super fund loan for our clients in our client fact finder. And we'll take a quick look at the difference between servicing inside a fund and servicing outside a fund. And when we are working together in our one-on-ones, I'm here to help you get into the detail of it. And when you get a client that's a potential self-managed super fund client, I'm here obviously to help you to do all the numbers and make it all work for you. But we'll cover the big rocks today, definitely. All right, so let's move on. Helping more Australians build much greater tax-smart retirement wealth using a self-managed super fund property investment strategy is something that I've become very passionate about. When I was first introduced to this form of investing, and when I started doing the numbers, it just blew my mind. And as you can probably tell, I'm quite passionate about this topic because I really want people to be given options. And I believe that education is the key to solving a lot of our problems, helping people to build happier, wealthier, more prosperous lives, and giving people the right education. And I think a lot of what could help our economy and our country and people's mental health is giving people this education from a very young age. However, at this point, our education system hasn't caught up to that yet, but I believe that that's our role in this capacity that we work for people, to not just help them borrow money, but to help wrap education around it, that they can have a greater understanding of not just what they're wanting, which is the money, but the why and the potential benefits. And to be very clear and transparent, that while I'm a licensed finance broker and I'm a licensed property sales agent, and I'm the director of the Results Investment Group, and I'm also an active self-managed super fund investor, and I have been for over 15 years, I'm not an accountant and I'm not a financial planner. This training presentation is for general advice and education purposes only. It does not consider one's personal financial circumstances, and there is no warranty given for the information provided. Please be responsible when it comes to making financial decisions. Always do your research and consult licensed financial professionals who understand self-managed super funds and property investing to confirm that whatever strategy that you're considering meets your investment goals. To the detail of our presentation, but also very important to remember. Okay, so let's have a chat about self-managed super funds, and we'll open up the microphone, guys. Who's heard of a self-managed super fund in the room? Yeah? Okay. And what have you heard? Who's willing to share anything that you know or have heard about self-managed super funds?
All right, I'll go first. So recently I found out that it's actually quite lucrative because, Trevor, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. If you purchase a property through your SMSF, obviously, there is a fees involved to getting it set up and stuff, but when you actually go sell it, when you retire, it's actually tax-free. And the income, like the rent generated from that property is also tax-free. Yeah, that's basically the what I've kind of gathered so far from that.
For the right investor, there has to be certain personality traits and disciplines about being the right and financial position, but definitely there is a lot of upside for the right people who get the self-managed super fund investing world and follow the rules. Maya, did you want to share something about what you've heard as around self-managed super funds?
Yeah, for me, I heard about SMSF, like using your super to invest in properties. You see, can instead of share in a super funds.
Yes, very much so. Definitely. Definitely. Thanks, guys. Do any of you know anyone who has a self-managed super fund apart from me?
No.
No. Do we? Paul?
No.
Okay. Good. Okay. All right. What do you guys think that most Australians think about super? No wrong answer. Anything you want to share or think they may think about super?
I think a lot of the time people just think it's money that you put away. They don't really look into it in a lot of detail, and I was one of those people. I sort
They
of just
don't
put
take it
it,
very seriously. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, essentially just put it away and think that, they're all generally the same. Which I've learned over time that's not the case.
Mm,
Some super funds are better than others, but now that I've heard about self-managed super funds, it seems like the way to go. Better return on investment rather than putting it into another organization that might give you, you know, smaller returns.
Anyone else want to share on that question, or we're all good? Yep. Okay. Very good point. And I'll just add one bit of extra observation to that question is if you had 150, if most people had access to $150,000 sitting in an account that was had money getting paid into it every month that they could access, what do you think they would think about that money? Do you think it would take more of their attention? Do you think they think about it more because they've got this amount of money that they can access and use and keeps getting added, topped up every month? Would their attitude towards it be different in any way, do you think?
Yeah, I'd say their attitude would be different if they had more control over it. Because obviously the mentality now is like, it's just a mandatory contribution that goes into their account every month. They don't really get to see it. They don't really get to like, benefit from it. It's just someone else managing it. But I guess if the control then shifts back to them, then
Mm,
there'll be a lot more attention and a lot more care.
yeah, probably a lot more jet skis getting purchased too, I'd say. All right, let's move on. Okay, let's do a quick quiz to open up this training. Have a bit of fun. All right. How many people receive some form of employer contribution in Australia? Is it 12.2 million, 13.5 million, or 18.6 million? How many Australians have an active self-managed super fund? Hang on a sec. Hang on. 633,000, 963,000, 3.76 million. Society.
Actually, can I
13.5.
change my first answer to 18.6?
Well, you just got the answer now. So
Oh, there you go.
13.5 million working Australians receive some form of super payment. Yeah. 653,062 have an active self-managed super fund, and the average net worth of their super fund right here, right now, regardless of ages, $881,000 in value. So if you or anyone's watching this video, if you got nothing else out of this, just by being the type of person that has the mindset and the foresight to have a self-managed super fund, and you, as I'm going to teach you, you don't have to be a multimillionaire to have a self-managed super fund. You will automatically, just by being that type of person, have the potential to have a whole lot more asset wealth because of the disciplines that come with a self-managed super fund. I just thought that figure was astounding because in a moment you're going to learn about what most people retire on as a standard employer under a super fund, normal super fund. Yep. All right, let's move on. Okay, I do have a gift for you guys that have attended. I've created this guide, and it's filled with all the great stuff that you'd want to know about tax, structure, the difference between how to invest in a residential and commercial property, all the stuff that I've given you in this presentation. It's a really cool resource. I am updating at the moment, but I will send it to you. And I say, take it, make it your own, give it to your clients, because I think that, again, being the guy who's really passionate about education, let's educate those people who do want to know how they can build greater wealth. And I think for most, let's say respectfully, everyday Australians that are working a job, if they're looking for the keys that unlock the door to greater wealth, for the right people with the right discipline and mindset, self-managed super funds and property investing is definitely a step in the right direction. I know for a fact, as a broker and clients that I've done this for and people that I know. So there'll be that gift coming your way. All right. So now let's look at why a lot more people are looking at self-managed super fund investment strategies. Here's a recent update that I got from the Australian Super Fund Association that on an average, let's say looking here, most people between male and female, 60 to 64, 380,000 in super, females 300,000. And as we get up into the 65 to 69, 428, 327. Now, as a guide, to live a comfortable retirement, you're going to need to have, as a single, 51,000, 73,000 for a couple. Most, though, are going to retire on 32 to 47. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that is so way not enough to have retirement. And let's not say people are not going to go and make a bit of income and do other things. But what I think is so important about this topic is when you hear people saying, oh, I'm only retired with 300,000, this is now an opportunity for those people that are at the right age, because the thing about building wealth in super and in property in general, it's time. We need time, right asset, but we need at least 15 years to make the magic of compounding capital growth and rental income to do its work, which we're going to go more about and look at about in a moment. So it would make sense that a lot more people are waking up to the fact of rising costs. Look, there's a whole lot of people that have got their head in the sand, too hard, too scary, can't be bothered, and we'll talk about that mindset later. It's a rip-off, it's a scam. This is not a rip-off. For the right people, this is a proven investment strategy. But let's face it, for a lot of people, it's just easier to put that off because it's just all too much and all too hard. But it really doesn't have to be. And this is what we're going to go through more today and how we can help our clients. Okay, so let's move on. I'll go through quickly what a self-managed super fund is, just for the fun of it. Unlike an employee super fund, which puts the control of your super money in the hands of the fund manager, as you guys said earlier, investing options are very limited, and what you receive in returns is at the discretion of the fund manager, right? Whereas with a self-managed super fund, you control your super fund and how to manage it and how to invest it. There are rules to follow, but they're not that hard, I assure you. This is the other thing I believe happens in our world is people are blinded by supposed complexity because they read about all these compliant things and things to do. At the end of the day, we'll go through it in more detail later, but it's your money. It goes into a bank account. You're buying a property. All your income and expenses go in and out of that account. You have your accountant who does the auditing, and it's quite a straightforward process. The only time people get themselves in trouble is when they go touch their own money, they go spend it on stuff that's not for super, and that's where people get into trouble. But all the rest of it is really quite straightforward. Yeah, that's why we hire good accountants and solicitors to help us with this too. All right, so a self-managed super fund gives control of one's investment funds, and they come with many tax-effective benefits, as we were saying. And the added benefit is that you have the ability to invest in a more diversified list of assets, including residential and commercial property, shares and other derivative types, crypto and alternative assets, and other strategic investments, all within self-managed fund rules. And it's all in that guide that I've created. But for the right people, there is a lot more options to get that money, that super money that is yours, ours, to better use, because it's been one of those. And I think the implementation of super for people to have that automatic payment to help people build a nest egg. But now it's such a wonderful opportunity to get it working and invested in smarter, higher returning ways for the right people. All right, I've got this quick example. I've got a quick example of one couple invested, kept their money in their super fund. The other bought a property. I've just the numbers are real. I've done the calculations, but I'm just using two different couples to give a comparison of what the end game would look like. Do you want to see what it's going to look like, guys? Yeah? Yep. Okay. So let's say both couples have a combined income of 242,000. Both have a combined super of around 285,000. Their average age is around 40 years of age. They've got about 25 years to retirement age of 67, yeah, which is the target we're working on here for the numbers, okay? So this couple, they keep their money in their super fund, and looking at the average returns of most conservative super funds, it ranges around 3% after all costs. You might hear 8%, 9%, 7%, but it's very important to find out the real return costs. And this is where it gets a bit tricky for people, because sometimes they think, oh, that sounds like a good return, we're all good, but it's the real return. So super funds, by the way, do a great job for most people, because for most people, if they had access to that money, they probably wouldn't have anything. So for the right people, this is a very good strategy. But we're good. So let's say, to move along, 285 invested. In 25 years, their fund at 3% capitalized would be about 1.2, almost 1.3 million. Not a bad result, okay? Now, on a 3% average return per year, their dividend would be about 38 grand. Kind of ties in with the earlier numbers that we saw, right? So that's one way of going. The other way of going is this couple went and bought a house. They bought a house for 750,000. Now, I've worked on the capital growth of about 5.5%. The average capital growth across major cities is actually higher than that, but I've kept it really conservative for the example. And I'm working on about a 4% average annual rental increase. So in 25 years, this would be worth 2.7 million. The loan would be paid out by then, because they're getting a employer contribution and rental income. The debt does get paid down quite a bit quicker than in a standard home investment loan, because you've got that extra income coming in. That's for another training session and conversation, but they'd own that asset out, 2.7, nice bit of money to have. And they'd also have a gross before outgoings of about $101,000 a year, growing tax-free rental income, because this keeps going as they rent their property out, and it does keep increasing. So as you said earlier, Dwee, if we look at the comparison, look, people for people, if this works for someone, then that's great. But if someone's willing to be more proactive, has got the long-term game here, willing to go long, as we say in investing, this can be a beautiful way to build a lot more come retirement. And if we get in a higher growth area, take care of our property, get our debts down, you're looking at a very nice passive growing tax-free income. Yeah. So for me, I love the numbers on that. And what's the difference? 1.4 million ahead of this, and an extra 44K a year. And I think for most people, they'd be happy to have that result for the right people. Yeah? All good? Yeah? All right, let's move along. Let's look at some numbers. Now, how does this all work? And now we're really in broker finance world at the moment, but let's look at some numbers here on how it works. So the first thing is, we've got why property works in a self-managed super fund is for a number of reasons. It is projected capital growth And this is taking into consideration inflation, by the way, these returns. Let's say 5.5% as I worked on, 25 years, 4% average growth. They, to buy the property, so here's all the costs. They bought a 750K property. They got an 80% loan. It cost them in deposit and costs out of their super 185,950. They've been left with 99,000 in their super account. Now, they can keep some of that in cash. They can put some of that in shares. They can keep some of that in a managed fund. They could put some of that in crypto. It's there to be invested. But just for people who are watching this, in addition to us guys, a lot of people go, oh, it's a scam. You're getting ripped off. This is it. There is no scam. This is the numbers, right? You're going to pay an accountant to set up the fund. Us brokers, I personally charge $1,200 to set up a super fund loan because there's a lot of work. So I do charge a broker fee for that, a mandate fee that is deductible out of the super fund as a setup fee. Just being really transparent here. Now, they're the fees. And this is the other thing about setting up a fund. You do not need to spend $10,000, $15,000 is what I hear some people charging people to set up their super fund. My accountant is a specialized self-managed super fund accountant. He has an auditor in his office, $5,000 round numbers to set up all the entities in the fund, and that's what they do, just as an example, right? Now, we've got rental income here, our rental income, and this here is the key, the contribution, this figure here. Now, if we've got, oh, and by the way, we need to have a net position for the numbers to work. So this is our income. These are all the outgoing costs as an estimate, including our annual self-managed super fund audit, because the fund's audited every year by the accountant. Now, until rent increases on this property, for this client's numbers to work, they would need to contribute an extra $5,200 a year into their fund, or they can take it out of their surplus funds holding to make sure that they've got enough to pay all the outgoings. Because the ATO, ASIC, me, the broker, you, the broker, and the accountant want to make sure that the investor is buying an asset that the property and what they're getting in contribution, and if they have to contribute extra, they can afford to do comfortably, to be a very, very good long-term investment. So yes, while there is a bit of numbers here, it's very important that we know these numbers. And I've got a table that I'll give you guys in your client tracker for a self-managed super fund client, and I'll teach you how to break these numbers down. But as you're looking at them, I know you guys will be across this, but this is just a little bit next level on a house, but it's the same deal, right? Now, here's the upside. As rent increases, the loan gets paid down sooner. And generally with contribution, people's salaries, get increased, their super increases. So the first part of buying a property in a super fund, the first couple of years are the harder years because you've got to make sure you've got enough going in. But as the rent goes up, you love your property, you take care of your tenants, you fix toilets, you make sure it's all beautiful. This is your little money-making machine. As that starts to go up, the debt gets paid down. And then come the 25 odd years ahead, you've got an asset that's debt-free, and you've also, where are we? Got an asset that's debt-free, and you've got a $2.7 million asset with $100,000 gross income per year coming in. After costs, $82,000. I estimated outgoing repairs, council rates, property manager, audit fees, and I've increased them a bit. So still a really nice income. Yeah. Now, guys, before we proceed, any questions on this or observations sharing? What do you think? Helpful? Yep. All right. what are the three factors that impact this model working, guys? What do you think of the three factors? And I've pretty much highlighted them. I have highlighted them. I'll tell you, it's time. We need time. We need capital growth and rental growth. And we need income and contribution. These are the key contributing factors as to why a property investment can work really well for the right people. Obviously, they've got to have the time, they've got to have enough money to commence with doing the investment, and they've got to play the long game. This is not, oh God, I'm sick of getting called by my agent once a year because we might need to fix a pipe. You know, some people are like that, being sarcastic, but it's a long game here, you know, so that's the important part. But the long-term benefit is substantial. And a lot of people will also say, what? Seriously, a property that's now currently 750 is going to be upwards of almost $3 million? Well, you know, properties that were once 78,000 in Sydney are now selling for 13, 14, $15 million. Properties continue to go up, and so they're a good asset for the right people, but it's a long-term game with some disciplines. Okay. All right. So let's look at what's going on here. Now, how this compares to an employer fund, real quickly broken down, just for you to know, guys. 25 years, 285,000 annual salary, combined contribution. You're going to pay tax. You still pay tax as an employee. It's just the employer and the fund do all that for you. If you've got insurance coming out of your super fund and your average return is 3%, at 25 years compounded, you're looking at 1.2. And then come retirement, you've got an asset value of 1.2. You've got no more contribution because if you've left work, but if you do keep working, great. If your insurance is still coming out on your return, that is how you get the income. It's that simple, guys. There's not a lot of rocket science around this, and that's just the breakdown of it. Of course, this could vary. Sometimes the return could be a bit higher, a bit lower, but that is how the numbers in real quick example is broken down. Okay, so just so you know. All right, let's move on. Another client of mine actually changed the name, but very real person. These are real numbers. She 20 years to retirement, 151,000 in super, and works as a nurse. And income 151. She's an emergency nurse, so she does make quite good money as a nurse. 183 in super, has a goal to retire on a 5 to 6 figure passive income. And if she'd gone the standard employer route, she'd end up with about 761,000 with 29,000 income. She's gone the property investment route. We've found her a good investment property, and she's invested her funds. She's bought an apartment in Townsville, 467,000, working on 8% and 5% rental growth, plus her tax, $2.17 million property, 80K a year income, right? So not bad, and quite a big difference. Yep. Still, you know, no big rocket science. No, you know, we've had to reinvent and build a whole business. We've just set up a fund, bought a good property. She knows the rules, and she's playing the long game. Yeah. And look, even if it was 5% or 4%, she's still going to end up with upwards of 1.5 million at least, and a growing passive income. It's a good property. It's that building there. It's well taken care of with a good manager. And people buy houses and investments every day and live in them for 20, 30 years. So why not buy one with your super and live in it too? Yeah. All right. So let's move on. Now, guys, this is something for you to consider when it comes to qualifying your clients to know whether they are a good fit for a self-managed super fund property strategy. Yeah. And these are the questions that you can take away, leave what you want, take what, you know, use what you want, leave what you don't. But these are what I've realized are the key contributors to test if someone has the potential to succeed as a property self-managed super fund property investor. Their motivation to retire with more in asset and income wealth is stronger than all their doubts and fears and all the stories. When the kids go back to school, when the gate's fixed, when my hair grows longer, when Mars aligns with Jupiter, then I'll get started, right? All that stuff I'm being cheeky around. But, you know, as we know, that stuff's fear, and it's uneducated fear, right? They want to retire with more. And as I said, you know, $2 to $6 million and an 80 to 130K plus passive income is very real and possible with a self-managed super fund property done at the right time for the long-term game with the right property. It would make a big difference to their retirement. They either on their own or with a partner have at least they earn at least $150,000 a year. They have either on their own or with a partner. I'm going to say, even though we did that one for the nurse with a little bit less, I feel you've got to have at least 185,000 in super to really make it work. So you've got a buffer and breathing space. You can do with a bit less, but that's my go-to figure, I believe, when doing the numbers. They receive their 12% contribution from their employer, or if they're self-employed running a business and they pay themselves a wage and super, you know, this works just as well for self-employed people where the numbers work. And they're going to be working for at least 15 or more years because, like I said, we need the time, right? Okay. They don't let unqualified opinions and fears of others stop them. A lot of people that we've spoken to and I've spoken to, they're like, oh, my brother, he said that it's a scam. It's not approved. ATO don't allow it. And it's like, okay, well, that's interesting. And then once we go through it, we discovered that most of these things are just made up by people that probably a bit afraid themselves, respectfully. They seek out the facts. They're willing to do the work. They believe property is a good investment. You know, it's a funny thing about investing property, especially in super. When I've spoken to people, they're like, oh, property, it's very risky, very risky. And I said, did you buy a house? And they go, yeah, we bought a house 12 years ago. And it's like, so has that been risky? And they're like, oh, no, we love our house. And it's like, well, why would buying a house and as an investment be risky? And sometimes it's just getting people to get a different mindset about things, yeah? They believe property is a good investment long-term in a good area, and they're willing to take some action and do something about it. So, guys, you will have this presentation. Take these questions, use them if you wish, but they're my general kind of go-to questions to help qualify people. And look, you can, as we talk about later, you know, you can present benefits to people and we can look at, you know, we don't want to give people financial advice, but just show them the options. But it's very important that we need to understand that people are going to make their own decisions. And as we talked about, you know, I'll talk about it later, but you can present some very, very valuable life-changing opportunities to clients to refinance, lower debt, have more money in their bank, build greater wealth, and they still don't do it. Why? I don't know why. Why does the sun come up every day? Who knows? But people are people. Some will get it, some won't. And all we can do is do our best to educate them, show them what's possible. And, you know, the rest we have to leave up to them. Yeah. All right. So let's move on. Quick quiz. We all good? All right. Sorry, that's meant to have many there. How many years do Australians hold property before selling? Is it 4.3 years, 10.5, or 13.7? Who's 4.3? 10.5? I think I told you this one, didn't I, to it yesterday? Yeah. Paul? 13.7?
I'm actually not sure at all on this one, to be honest. I think it varies a lot.
Okay. So I've got Paul on the fence. I got two 10.5. Is that right? Paul and Dwee and Mia. All right, I'll come to you in a minute. How many years does it take for a property on average in a major capital city in Australia to double? 9.4 years, 10.2, 13.6, 18.2. Who's 9.4? 10.2? 13.6? 18.2? Maya, which one did you choose? None. You're not picking any. Come on, which one? Just pick one.
I think 9.4 years.
9.4. Okay, good job. All right. So, how many years does a property triple in value? 19 years, 23 years, 28 years, 30 years. Who's 20? Oh, sorry, who's 19? 23? You're 19? 23? All right. 28? Let's just get to it. All right. Well, hang on a sec. What have I done here? Oh, okay. So most properties that's meant to be sold. Sorry, that's meant to be sold. Most of properties on average are sold at 10.5 years in major capital cities. Properties double on average in major capital cities every 13.8 years. So most people are missing out by about 2 and something years before it goes gangbusters for them, right? So that's interesting. And properties triple on average 23 years. So I think, what does this tell us? Again, it's a long-term game for property. I believe unless someone really knows what they're doing from a trading property perspective, buy that property. God, I think about the properties I've had that if I'd kept them through the highs and lows, took care of them, didn't freak out when things, went sideways with the GFC and COVID and that stuff. I got a buddy of mine, very successful property investor, and everything he's purchased, he just owns. And he said, even when I've bought the house and live in it, I'll figure out a way to keep it if I'm going to upgrade for the family. I don't sell it. I figure out a way to get the next one and keep both. So not for everyone, but something to worth considering, especially when our housing is becoming a real issue in Australia. Less housing, more people. And so, guys, if you're watching this video and my guys here, let's just keep those properties. Let's refinance them, pull some equity out for the right people, and let's build up that portfolio. Did you want to share anything on that, Dwee? We mind ticking over there? No? Okay. Average property holding periods in Australia. National average Aussies own a property is 10.5 years. Owners for 13 to 14 years, especially Sydney and Melbourne. Investors' holding period of a property is 8.8 to 9 years. So investors sell sooner than homeowners. Isn't that interesting? Units, apartments on average are sold within 2 to 4 years. Mind-blowing, right? So let's just be like the homeowners. All right. And they're just some average growth and double and triple for the major cities. Yeah. All right. Now, real quick, let's do this and then let's move on to some other good stuff. There are a lot of pros to a self-managed super fund, guys. Capital growth, rental income. You can borrow money for the right people in the right structure so you get leverage. You got greater control, diversification, asset protection, estate planning. You're committed to the investment. I think this is a very powerful thing with self-managed super funds because you bought it in your super and you're forced in a way to kind of play the long game. You can still sell it, but it's not like selling a normal property. So you're kind of forced to hold this asset, which is, I think, a good thing. And there's a lot of tax benefits that come with the self-managed super fund property. Cons, you can't live in the property. It has to be for investment. You can't put the family in it. You can't be related to it. It's got to be for investing purposes for your retirement. You've got to follow compliance. You've got to make sure that everything's paid in and out of your fund. You've got rules to follow. The good thing is, as I say in a moment, when you've got a good accountant or planner, working that's charging you a fair and reasonable fees. I have had one for 13 years. My accountant just sends me what he needs each year, and it's very straightforward. I just follow the rules, no problem. Got the assets in the super fund, just like I would in my name, and all things run smoothly. There is exit strategies. There's penalties if you do breach the rules, and you've got to watch the impatience, because people that are impatient will get themselves in trouble if they want to sell too soon. Okay, so it's about having some discipline and not touching the money, because some people have gone and accessed the super and a super fund and gone and spent it, and that's a big no-no and can cause lots of issues. Yeah.